Good evening. How are you? Well, it's Thomas Jefferson's statement is that we got 88, which is down from 98, which it was all day, but I'm getting out later. And the humidity was 80 most of the day. And the wind is about 5 miles an hour now, and occasionally I feel it, which is unusual. I was listening to the talking heads in the background while I was working, and they were talking about, well, this whole thing with Epstein and the Justice Department, I don't see any crime there. Whoa, stop the music. The guy is obstructing the Department of Justice in what looks like consciousness of guilt because he knows or believes there's something in those documents he overlooked that is, if not embarrassing, worse, perhaps something that could be prosecuted in a world that didn't recognize the immunity for Trump for everything. Of course, not for non-official acts. And these sexual acts years ago, which may or may not be subject to statutes of limitation, they could present more of a problem. Of course, the unbelievable thing is how there are all these other matters that were so scandalous that Trump just brushed off, but not this. Well, I'd like to talk about one of my hobby horses because I think that how we handle our environment has become more treacherous with time, over which we've done nothing to protect ourselves, or very little. And it's front and center in our minds right now about how the warmer air holds up the water and it progresses across the land, and when it drops, it breaks all water land records for the precipitation, leading to floods and great suffering and damage and destruction. Now, NOAA has had some special tools in this regard and a way to forecast rainfall. The question of how often a storm of a given duration and intensity could be expected. So this is a big deal, this program, especially in the light of what's happened at Guadalupe River in Texas. This is helpful as an understatement, but it's helpful in a warmer world. Now, we've had old data, but you see, that's the point. The old data of the 100-year flood, well, that doesn't apply anymore. And we couldn't say that we've overlooked how short it's become in various ways, in various places, all because of global warming, or climate change, if that's what you want to call it. But the change is only one direction. Climate change, it's not a new dance. It's not, it changes its color. The waters at a special temperature or something when it lands. No, it's because of the whole climate becoming warmer. The space above us can hold more water. And when it lets go, it can actually sit over a place and keep dropping water. There could be no air in between the droplets of water because it's all like somebody just took a huge bathtub and turned it upside down. So the significance of having good information is that civil engineers and communities can make good decisions on this kind of data. Now, it turns out that you may remember this jerk, Bird Brain, who's in charge of, Lutnick, who's in charge of policy, including NOAA. And what he's done is he's put the kibosh on this study. Right now, it's paused at a time when we could use it. I thought I'd go through a few things which, if they stay in my mind, it's not a hit parade, it's a non-hit parade. It's a wrong emphasis, or it's an indication of what a better emphasis is. So let's take the subject of eugenics. Hitler saw this as a way to provide racial hygiene, he called it, though it was a pretty dirty business. And it led to persecution politics. Now here at home, we are encouraging how to, in our languages, optimize the young, custom-built algorithms and genome analysis. And we do this as we screen embryos. And one of the popular adherents of this is Elon Musk, and one of his spouses is talking it up right now. So this is a strand that fits it when he waves his arm up in the air as if he's at a Hitler rally, but he's at a Trump rally. And then he's not just giving us a symbolism that's heinous because of the association with so much more. The symbol is a way to be transient to a greater truth. And so just one single thing opens up vistas, in this case, of evil and terrible and hate and suffering and pain and subjugation. And should we be doing that about how we birth children? Now, on the other hand, those that we don't want to home grow, pardon the expression, but this is a pretty terrible subject, the way it's been handled by the Trump administration. We want to deport hardly scrutinized migrants. Sometimes we're learning just based on the way they look and the accent they have. And we want to send them to third countries. And we just sent 5 to Eswatini. I'm sorry, I haven't heard of it. I couldn't find it for you on a map. There are a lot of other things I couldn't find on a map, but I can get the big ones, and this is not one of them. And this jurisdiction was not home to any of the persons being deported. How's that? Another place in the world where we're making major errors, we can't leave out the Mideast. In Gaza, there was a stampede at one of the aid distribution centers, and 20 are dead, trammeled, run over. And apparently Israeli troops are near when these things occur, and if it displeases the Israelis, and I can't say what's going on because I haven't been there, and they sit on the information about it, they shoot people. And there are hundreds of people who've been killed at so-called aid distribution centers. Now, Florida. Is this the picture of America? But if you're writing about it, and you write the sensational bad news, this is what the world is seeing of us. Florida detention inmates are being told that there are alligators, panthers, and venomous snakes, and so when they leave the cages that they're lodged in, they have to be careful and escorted so that these things don't get them. Now, turning to the author of displeasure and hate and suffering and chaos, stupidity, clumsiness, bigotry, we have Trump. Now, some may remember Nixon had a bad case of phlebitis, and he took it very badly because a whole bunch of things were coming together at the same time. Watergate, questions about his impeachment, conviction, moving him on. But then there were Republicans and Democrats who talked to him for the country, and they worked out a settlement. And some can question whether that settlement failed to drive the message home that these kinds of people, Nixon included, should not be president. And why not? Well, let's take a couple of things right off the bat. I'm with those lawyers who are against Bove, B-O-V-E, Trump's former defense counsel on his criminal case that ended in 34 convictions, becoming a federal judge. And some say they're grooming him to go on the Supreme Court. They've already picked out who's going to lead the Supreme Court. Can you imagine how that looks to Americans. Who cares what the rest of the world thinks? It's terrible right here. We don't need anybody else to explain to us how terrible this is. Now, I have crocodile tears, but I'm also Irish superstition. So I hate to say anything bad about somebody physically, but Trump has chronic venous insufficiency. In English, that means there's a swelling in his lower leg, and there's a discoloration that's been seen in his hands from it. And what's happening is his blood is struggling to get back to the heart, and because it's not getting there, it's pooling, if you will, and the leg veins are getting thicker. And Musk and others, I wonder what they think about this, but this is kind of the result of a man who looks like he also has no rules of respect even for the cavity he inhabits. The thinking meat, if thinking is what you may use to say about Trump. And this thinking meat proceeds, and he abuses this as he abuses everything else. Things he eats, whatever medicine, medication, pills he's been taking to sustain his ridiculous schedule. You know, standing and sitting for extended times can cause this. It happens to people as they get older. But what's he going to be able to do to take care of it? Can he actually administer the office? We've seen in recent days the bizarre things he says. Wow, the Unabomber was a student of his grandfather, and they didn't overlap. It's just, he's a man who, it's like he's on a trip, and he gets into this thing himself so much that it looks like he believes it as he's saying it. He says it in this avuncular way, when in truth it's just a lie. So he's just practicing these lies. You know, he could go to a cocktail room, maybe not have cocktails, and talk to people, and they'd find him credible until they did any checking at all. And then they find out it's just not true. Well, he and his buddy, Elon Musk, who've had their falling out, he's being called on a cover-up. And we have commentators saying, well, what could he have done wrong? We don't know that he did anything wrong. How is it that people say these insane things? Do they feel they have to be so reserved that they don't say what's obvious? Why does someone not want a report to come out? Because it says bad things about me. Okay. Isn't that the beginning and the end of the whole thing? Isn't that what's causing roiling, I guess they call it, all the followers of Trump? And finally, this is the one that did it. And so Elon Musk has been attacking Trump, and he says the whole thing with Epstein and how Trump's handling it is a cover-up. This is more like what Dems should say. Why is it that other people say the things we should say? It's like somebody was on the air saying, oh, I don't know if Democrats should say anything. Maybe they shouldn't say anything. Just let him do himself. And yeah, that worked well during the period that Biden was president. Well, let's not prosecute him. Let's not do anything to him. We'll beat him at the ballot box. Oops, didn't work. Nobody should be supported in their run for office who is not fighting this bastard. It's intolerable. It is wrong. It defies the oath of office they took. The file should be released. If somebody has to appoint several people in the Congress to go into the office and take it out of Bobby Kennedy's old desk, so be it. That's what we should be doing. I'm one of the ones, by the way, who with others signed on in opposition to Beauvais becoming a judge on the circuit court, perhaps so they can take him to the Supreme Court. So this is a hodgepodge of things that come to my mind, and you probably thought about them as well. you feel the mark of error, gross error in our government, in the servants who are not up to the task, and to the extent that they are, they're lying and misleading us and cutting off programs that we need and make sense. So, that's what I have today, and I'm going to say good evening to you from my Cathedral of Trees. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.